Welcome back from the commercial break. We are dealing with realities of Uganda's agricultural production and industrial growth. We're also concerned in our discussion this evening how best to resolve unemployment gap and low economic productivity. Allow me at this moment to welcome Mrs. Josephine Akia Ruimbazi, and she will be taking us through in part of the areas of concern. While talking about Madam Ruimbazi, while talking about agricultural production, talking about low economic productivity, we know the factors of production cannot live out land. And we are blessed to be with you tonight, being the country coordinator for participatory ecological land use management. Research reviews, which I recall, the information I gathered 2014, it might have changed, that we have over 16 million acre of land, which is not utilized, yet it is arable land that is so fertile, in other words, that we could do agriculture far better than maybe Egypt, which is in a dry, a dry zone, and other areas in either the northern tropical zone. And incidentally, those countries which are not gifted like Uganda, some are doing best in agricultural production, and they have turned around the economic fortunes of their country. We will continue to ask ourselves what has gone wrong, and we don't come here to lament. Something must be dealt with. Is it because of our policies that is not favoring agricultural production, while we remain with small-scale farming, yet we have huge unutilized land? It's a pleasure to have you, but it was just a commentary. I'd like to hear your package that you have to deliver a package for us dealing with the realities of Uganda's agricultural production and industrial growth, but take into consideration also my commentary. It's a pleasure to have you, Madam.
Thank you so much. I want to begin with the model that PELAM is promoting. And PELAM is Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Uganda. We are a part of a PELAM association that has presence in 12 countries within Eastern and Southern Africa. And the whole reason why PELAM was started was to address the harsh conditions that the smallholder farmers are facing. And when Dr. Adjeri was presenting, I like her humble beginnings. She started small and was able to grow. And those are the farmers that we're working with, the smallholder farmer, to enable them to grow to that potential that Uganda wants, for them to be able to contribute to the GDP of the country. As we speak in that recently passed budget, agriculture was only contributing 24.1% of the GDP. And only 33% of the export earnings, which clearly shows you that the smallholder farmers are doing a lot, but it's not yet amalgamated to see that transformative change for us to be able to achieve that production and industrial growth that we desire. And as PELAM, what are we doing? We know that agriculture has a lot of challenges that it's facing, right from the question that you rightly put in your commentary, the question of land. Out of the very many acreages that we have, only 30% is being utilized. We have another percentage that is also catering for water. But if you go to the smallholder farmers, why are they not able? Why is my grandmother, why is my mother not able to access this land? Because of the question of land ownership. If they have access to the land, do they have the legal entity, the legal right for them to own this land and even go ahead and access an agricultural loan and use this title as security? Not many do. If at all they're even blessed to have the access to utilize the land, are they privileged to control the produce when it comes to marketing? We all know that men are very good at coming in and controlling that value chain of marketing and agro-processing and value addition, while the women cater more on the production chain. So there is need for us to address all these issues, for us to be able to collectively as a country say we are benefiting from agriculture and being able to enhance that. Back to what are some of the challenges that we are facing. As PELAM, we're a network of 66 member organizations, and throughout the districts that keep growing, and I don't know the number right now, we are in 122 districts.
You've also come to Kabale?
Yes, we are in Kabale and work with Kabale. We work with, we have one of our members Let's Change My Community. He's called Alex Atuyamba, who is in the recently carved out Ruchiga. So we go as far as that to work with big organizations.
Okay.
We have the Eastern and Southern Small Scale Farmers Forum, ESAF, which also has presence in Kabale. And why we work with this kind of bodo is because we want to empower the community. We want to give them all the skills that they can agroecologically to be able to enhance the soil. If you go into agroecology is a science, it's a practice, it's a movement. For this particular discussion, I'll focus more on the practice. If you look at the current issues we're grappling with in terms of agricultural production and productivity, climate change is one of them. You've seen the flooding in Bududa, you've seen the flooding in, I think it was Kasese recently on the news, and all this water is going to waste. And after 3-4 months, we shall be coming back and saying, there is no water for production in Karamoja. There is no water for production in the areas that are a little bit high, like Soroti, where I come from, Teso region. So we need to see how is government coming in to address some of the issues we're grappling with. How are we building the resilience of our smallholder farmers for them to be able to prepare them for the shocks of climate change? We had the recent incidents of locust invasion. We also had scenarios of the army fall worm, where a lot of unsustainable practices were used. For instance, the aerial spraying that is indiscriminative. In a way, it's affecting the beneficial insects, the bees that are supposed to help us in pollination. So what are the alternatives that we have to address this? And that is when we go into our practices that we are promoting, practices of enhancing soil fertility by using locally available materials. We promote organic agriculture, where it's able for the farmer to access some of the plant waste, for instance, some of the animal waste like cow dung, and enhance the soil fertility. Because doctor said you don't have to milk a cow if you've not fed it.
Yes.
And it's the same concept for the soil. You do not milk the soil if you have not fed it. What you give the soil is what it will give you back.
That's the reality indeed.
If you don't feed the soil, don't expect it to give you a huge bunch of matoke.
That's right.
When you've not mulched, you've not even gone ahead to cover, you've not, ensured that there are good cropping mechanisms that you're putting there. So it's the same concept. For us to reach that industrialization, that economic activity that we relate to agriculture, there is a lot we have to do. Are we addressing the issues of agriculture financing, for instance? The issue is not that holistically. We are happy that we have the agricultural credit facility, but how many farmers, I don't know if doctor is accessing it, but the farmers that we are talking to are still failed to access this because the Bank of Uganda is giving it to other credit institutions. But when you go back there, it's back to the same procedure. Sign here, sign there, bring security, bring collateral, and all these kind of things. And it becomes unfair, and the smallholder farmers will shun away from this. So before we get to where a doctor is, we have a journey where we start. And it's upon the government to set policies and procedures that support these farmers. Is the infrastructure there? We have scenarios where farmers go and harvest a lot of maize along Masindi, Hoima region. But if you went to find out how many of them even have storage facilities, there was a time they were promoting silos. We are still in the rudimentary way of our granaries. But what are the capacities of those granaries? Can they handle a doctor's capacity of maize, for instance, if she has done over thousands of tonnages? Do the farmers have that capacity? That's a question that we need to answer. If you're looking at the extension service provision, I'm happy you talked about the previous regimes of Dr. Notudubote, where every person was able to access an extension worker.
Oh, yes.
Right now we have a policy which is the strategy is being reviewed. And I think it was yesterday or the other day on the news when they were showing the budget cuts and who are some of the people going to be affected. It's the extension workers. So what does that leave the smallholder farmer who needs this service? Who needs to be told, no, a pig is supposed to be fed this much.
I have a
cow is supposed to be,
I have a question for you. We'll be interacting and you will. I'm enjoying your submission, but yet there is where I need to indeed critically review as we progress. Whereas you as an NGO, you're doing your best, but the interlinkage both with the government and the civil society, especially the religious organization. I asked you a question for a district which is far, all to the southwestern, to understand how best you've reached the rural areas. And it was for the interest in this very area which has affected productivity, the loss of soil fertility, the good thing you talked about, the issues of climate change, which are understood, I believe, now by the population. I don't know. Now back to you with your contribution that you are encouraging even the viewers and the listeners. How best are you driving the quick and effective use of land, dealing with the challenge of wetland, and also the policy which seems not to be, land policy which seems not to be favorable for agricultural production, especially the mass production that should lead and connect us to in mechanized agriculture. We seem to still be struggling with this food to mouth, but since it is a signal by using hose, and even some MPs were encouraging to distribute hose, and it was becoming like a miracle to our people. But there are countries when they hear that for you, the percentage using hose, it's okay if you could use hose, but the bigger percentage if it was you under now the coverage of mechanization would be far. Allow me to pose it back to you briefly, then we go back to Doctor, just in 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much. If I got you right, the first aspect was on the wetlands.
All right.
What is it that we are doing, also the coverage. You asked me about the far southwest. And I'm happy to note, I think it was the last week of August, we were in the districts of Kabale, Kanu, Ruchiga. There were 4, I'm forgetting the other. But what was there, it was we were working with the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development to create awareness through what we call the Land Awareness Week. And we were basically looking at the minority group of the Batwa, who currently do not have land, but we have people who have come in to help them acquire land. And they are settled on this land, but still they do not have the legal land ownership on this land. So, and this also happens to the issues of wetlands. And our concept is very simple. Agroecology looks at the appreciation of different ecosystems, agroecological ecosystems within an environment, including the wetlands. What we say for wetlands is conserve and restore. And how do we do this? We have what we call the farmer managed natural resource regeneration, where we are even going to the farmers and telling them, if you have a banana plantation, if you have a coffee plantation, integrate agroforestry. If you're working in the wetland, how can you reclaim the wetland as opposed to depleting the wetland? So our concept is use maximally the little land that you have, rather than destroying the other ecosystem, which is also providing us other eco services, because we know that wetlands help us in cleaning this water that we use. It's a habitat for a lot of animals, the small snakes, the worms, the snails, the mud fish in areas of Teso, we all find it in the wetlands. So we're telling them, move away and let's effectively know how to utilize that small land that we have. Practices like aerial farming, for instance, is what we are promoting. Small things like sack gardens, that a smallholder farmer can have a sack and you have all types of crops on these, especially vegetables that you can grow. We even have people who have gone ahead to plant potatoes in sack gardens, and it has really proved to work out well.
Sack gardens.
Yes. So these are some of the practices that we are talking about for them to be able to utilize the land as opposed to encroaching on the land. Don't go cutting forests because you're looking for land, but how do you maximally use what you have? Because there's a tendency for the population to believe that the land in wetlands, the land in the forests is fertile, which is true. But that doesn't mean you have to cut down a whole forest because you want to set up a banana plantation. How do these two ecosystems peacefully coexist? That is the question we are preaching. And we are trying to see that they peacefully coexist by enhancing the biodiversity. On a small piece of land, plant a pineapple, for instance, integrate it with bananas. Along the intercrops, plant some trees. So that means one will be having the cash crops, will have having a fruit, will also be having a vegetable.
Even if you're a place where you are staying, make sure you do so.
Do something. Just like she said, plant something for your food, but also plant something to sell.
Wow, I appreciate you. Please, you hold on. We are enjoying your enriched information that we believe across, the globe. Those who are following us on Go TV and Des TV, this is Smart 24 TV, and we continue to aspire for the best, especially looking tonight at agricultural productivity. Doctor, I would like to welcome you, and please, would you give us more package? We want our country, I said this, you are the presidential advisor, we can do better. 3 years, we go to middle income, 7 years, we become first world. If we if we walk the talk, and we don't only talk about value chain for more than 10 years, and we don't see it happening. Kindly come on, it's a pleasure to have you.
Before I go to my topic, I want to supplement her topic.
It's well.
In northern Uganda, in Noya, our land is like this. We have two rivers, Denga River and Achwa River, and they meet together. And the best specific in northern Uganda is the erosion. And it is that Achwa River. Because whenever it rains, the water comes, sweep up all the fertility back to the river, takes it to another area.
What should have been done so that doesn't happen?
You know what we are doing?
Yes.
We are establishing what they call riparian buffer. Riparian buffer, we plant trees. We plant grass, trees, shrubs, and trap all the fertility. All the fertility, whenever comes with water, we put even valleys and we restore that. We restore nature. We get that soil back. And if you go near the river, we have matoke. We have the best fruits and the best soil around the river. So, to me, I believe it's really a duty of government, one, to educate in the garden and get the best practices in the garden, in the land, not to educate the people only in class. Because at our farm, we have a farm institute where we host the student for internship. I want to thank the student from King David and Rokopio. We hosted them for the 8 younger people. Every morning at 6 we would go to the garden and we saw them the challenges and what the best practices, how to do fruit farming and how to do agriculture. So I want to call upon the government and the Ministry of Education in their syllabuses. They must put there a curriculum. Nobody should do.
I did a research in fiscal decentralization agriculture extension services. That's where it happens to have done my dissertation 2014, and before I got an award of a PhD. I'm able to recall what was used to refer. I referred it as one of the pillar, agriculture education. And I think you're able to help me recall and make an emphasis. Agriculture education, which should go as far as the syllabus from primary, secondary, and we take it a point, this is us. This is what we believe as a country. This is our economic, ideological basis and belongingness. Taking it back to you, in the first session, you mentioned agricultural entrepreneurship, complete that which is relating with the commercialization of agriculture. Number two, you talked about the realities, how to go into the realities of Uganda agricultural production, complete value chain. You mentioned the need for improved infrastructure. Basically, I believe roads, and if anything, railways. We don't have railways. Please, it's a demand. When you reach Mzee, you tell him that there's a policy analyst saying we don't have railways, and they make business expensive because we only rely on roads. And also, there is agricultural financing. And then value addition. Back to the point, do you think very soon we are going to realize industrial growth, which is linked to our state of agricultural production?
To me, I don't see it. One, finance, we are so used to quick money, and we don't want to work.
Oh.
Since we don't want to work, I don't see us making it.
What should be done best? Because now I am aware that you have information. You are part of that team that advises. Oh, I remember I was also an assistant, senior assistant secretary and assistant chief administrative officer where we implemented the NADS program. The NADS, remember you took away our NADS. The real NADS, which we used to implement. But the NADS which is there now is done at the secretariat. So what I'm referring to, there was what we called zoning. and there was an intent to have a number of enterprises. There was also an intent to have to know that these are agricultural industries that are in the region. But now we don't see. We appreciate for the chairs, but we need a lot. I could admire to see even the end maybe of this, to bring, you know, a banana, the transportation of banana lorries. You are talking about Irish potatoes. What is in plan and what can be done faster? Where is government commitment and the citizen commitment to realize this? To
me, one thing, an advisor remains an advisor.
It's okay.
But if I had the power and authority, I would do my job and as a government. One, I would stop giving out small money to groups. I would concentrate on the infrastructure, the industries, and ensure that I sent people to produce knowing the market. And I would ensure that we have enough industries in the right zone and support the informal sector to produce. Must have a market and eat their sweat. The issue of quick money should come out of Uganda. Me, as you look at me, I used to be a very brown woman. But to me, every Saturday or when I'm in the farm, we work for 4 hours with a team. As a leader, I lead by example. So
what are you advising our youth who are coming here to, and they want white collar jobs, that they want to go abroad? You will pick it up from there as we go for the commercial break. And your package, which we continue with, is how can we help, because you had already hinted on that, to help our youth get jobs and from the state of our economy. Stay tuned, please. We are coming back in the next session.